Good morning, church. Grace and peace to you from your ecumenical siblings. I come bringing greetings from what is now 20 Christian traditions, which are members of the Wisconsin Council of Churches. Not only the denominations, but also a variety of organizations which support our mission of praying and working together for the unity and renewal of the church and the healing and the reconciliation of the world. My job takes me all over Wisconsin, and I get to preach in a variety of churches of a variety of denominations. And so I have to say it's a special joy to be worshiping with a church of my own tradition this morning. Thank you. It's good to be here. Will you pray with me? Holy One, we give thanks for your presence. Make this preaching moment a sacred time, infusing it with your Spirit, that through your word we might remember the holy truth of our calling, and so be emboldened for the work before us. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Dr. King famously said of this Good Samaritan text that we often get it wrong, that the question is not if I stop and take care of the Samaritan, what will happen to me? But if I don't stop, what will happen to him? If I don't stop and take care of the traveler? When we were casting about for the core text for our theology on this faith and gun violence project, we settled on the Good Samaritan because we realized we cannot be at peace while our neighbors are in pain. We've been working on this project for 2 years. It started shortly after I came to the council, and we had leaders from our tradition saying, "Can you give us a resource to take on this difficult topic in our churches? We have people who need to talk about it, and we're worried that talking about it will tear apart a church because it's one of those topics." And we know that sometimes churches are afraid to take on those topics, and we need tools. And then shortly after, we said, sure, we will provide a study action guide for you. We're the Council of Churches. We can do that. Parkland happened. Ash Wednesday. Valentine's Day. And then the cry changed. And we were asked, will the Council of Churches make a statement on this? And we provided a Lenten call to action to the churches. And we wrote these words to our members. We believe it is possible to address the scourge of gun violence as a people of faith, not fear. We believe our faith compels us to act in this moment, standing with the traumatized, aligning ourselves with the hope of transformation and new life. This is what Jesus people do, yes? And we called the churches into the public square. We said, on this issue in our time, youth are prophetic leaders, and perhaps we ought to attend to the words of the prophets. And then we realized, oh, rats. If we're calling the churches to do this, perhaps we ought to do this ourselves and put the voices of youth central in our own work on this issue. And so we began conceiving of a youth summit on faith and gun violence. The first one was held about a year ago. And we realized, too, that this didn't need to be a teaching tool where someone came and lectured to the youth. If they're the prophetic leaders, we needed to do the listening. And we needed to let what they had to say at this youth summit be at the core of whatever resource it was we provided for the churches. We follow a Savior who found stories a helpful way to open up a thorny situation. When we begin with a story, our hearts open up. We can re-enter a place of wonder and wondering. We can find our humanity and our neighbor's humanity, our vulnerability, our courage, our hope. With holy imagination, we can explore a future that looks and feels different than the present, and how we might be called to be co-creators of it. So what I have done today is bring some testimony. I have brought stories from the youth who spoke at the Story Slam at the end of the youth summit we held in Ripon just about a year ago, and stories from some of the youth at the Story Circle we held as a follow-up in Milwaukee last April. These are their words. I haven't polished them. I haven't edited them. And they're at the core of the curriculum that we are publishing this Lent on faith and gun violence. I consider it a sacred trust to bring these stories to you. I did invite them to come and tell their own stories. They have finals. I thank God for sacred stories, for the opportunity to bring them from place to place as a vehicle for transformation. I thank God for the people who first told these stories and the sacred trust of bearing their holy truth. Emily. So it was the beginning of my senior year, and I was carrying what feels like a 100-pound backpack into school, and I had my tennis backpack with me. And it was a really crummy day, and I didn't want to go to practice, but we still had it. So I went down, and I put my backpack away into my varsity locker. And we had to stay inside because it was crummy outside. We were in the cafeteria doing stretches and workouts and all that. And all of a sudden, the cross country and soccer guys start coming inside. They were whispering to each other, and we were like, what's going on? Over the loudspeaker, they were like, we're going into a lockdown. Please go to a safe space. And so we did. We were all confused, and my coach told us that there was a shooter. So it happened on one of our school buses, and he had a gun, and he accidentally shot a person's leg. And he ran off the bus, and so he was at large. And there was a possibility he'd be anywhere near us with a gun. So obviously I was worried that this person had a gun at school all day, and they had it in their backpack, and the possibility of anything happening is scary. I'm considered the team mom on our tennis team. And I had my phone on and with me, and a lot of them didn't. So I let them use my phone to call their parents and let them know they were okay. We were staying in the gym, and all of a sudden they were like, you have to go outside. And we were all confused and went outside together. There were police officers standing right there, and we were like, this is scary as hell. There was a possibility, we were told, that the shooter at large is in the building. So they had dogs come in to sniff it out. And all my stuff, my backpack and everything, was inside in my locker, and I had no way of getting to it and no way of getting home. But my teammates, who didn't have cars yet, they called their parents. And they were like, hey, can you pick me up? I could have called my parents and said, hey, can you bring my extra car keys so I can come home? But I just had to stay, just to make sure that my teammates were safe and they got home sound. And then 2 hours later, we were finally let back in the building. It was 7 o'clock at night, and I grabbed my keys and went home. The next day, I got to school and there was a line. They started doing backpack checks. The first time they started doing backpack checks, they did it for a week, and then they never did it again. This is Will. It was March 22, 2017, my freshman year. I was in the middle of being student council president at a meeting, running it as usual, and I hit a bump with our advisor. She's always driven me nuts. Finally, my pot overfilled, and I stormed out of the room, and I went straight downstairs to a bathroom. And at that time, I was crying. I'm not very emotional, but let me tell you, it was a big pot, and it was filling up fast. So I went out, finally, and heard there was a soft lockdown. I went in the bathroom, and I stayed locked in a stall, figured it's not a very safe spot, but it's secluded, and it's not a place where a lot of kids would come in case something happened. Eventually, a guidance counselor came through, and she said to me to go back. She escorted me back to student council. And I stepped in the door, and all of a sudden I hear, hard lockdown, right behind me. Our speakers are right above the door, right where I was, so it was blaring in my ears. And I could see everyone look at me because I was center of attention at that point. They all thought I was crazy or something because I'd just been crying in the bathroom. But now we all did, as we do every month, go in the corner and just sit down and stay smushed together. So during this, we stayed in for an hour and a half, and we have no idea what's going on. I think we're 15 minutes in, and I realize I don't have my phone in my pocket. So what I did was I army crawled under all the desks and chairs as quietly as I could, got my phone, and then army crawled back. I texted my parents and grandparents, letting them know I'm in the classroom in hard lockdown. It was done after an hour and a half. What we learned when the news came out was that it was a man that wanted to kill his wife, who divorced him and had custody of the children. But he was not able to kill this woman who worked at a bank that was a block down the road from our school, clearly visible from the main entrance door. He was not able to kill her, so he killed a teller. He then killed the divorce lawyer. And lastly, a cop who was at the standoff with him. So after this, what happened was our community felt this deep sorrow. Nothing had happened like this. There are about 100,000 people in the area. Our community did come together. I was there at a candlelight vigil with fire trucks. Never have I seen so many diverse people from the left and the right, people poor to as rich as can be, together in the same mental thought of sorrow. One thing I'm very proud of is our high school. The teller who'd been killed, she drafted a children's book that she wanted to publish but never did, and her neighbor had it. So we have a literary magazine, and we took it on to publish the book. In our art department, what they did was illustrated the book and made a beautiful memory. Even though she can't be with us, her memory does live on. It's the sweetest thing that can possibly come from the darkest situation. This is Lydia. My boyfriend and I have been together for a little over a year. He's one of my favorite people. He's super kind and super funny. One of my favorite things about him is we can always ask each other questions. There are always questions to be asked, like, where are we going for dinner? And why don't you agree with my choice about where we're going for dinner? And like, when are we going to hang out next? And one of those times when we were hanging out was yesterday. I was over at his house, and we were just in the kitchen getting Cheetos as a snack, as you do. And we were just kind of talking about our friends and our families. And as we were talking about our families, he brought up that his cousin recently purchased an AR-15. And I was taken aback by that. I grew up in a house where there were no guns. I wasn't even allowed to use water guns or Nerf guns as a kid, because it looked like a gun, and that's not okay in our house. And he noticed that I was shocked, and he asked what was wrong, and I told him, why does he need an AR-15? What does your cousin need this assault weapon for? And he replied, well, it's fun to shoot. It's just part of the country culture. He's a country boy, he's got country morals. He likes going to the shooting range. That's just who he is. That's what he does. And again, I was really taken aback. I don't understand. Why is it fun to wield a weapon that was specifically designed to kill as many people as possible, as quickly as possible? That just doesn't make sense to me. And again, he was like, I know, kind of the thrill of it, it's really exciting. And I was like, okay, go on a roller coaster. What is this? And I don't know, we kept talking, and he also told me his family has guns in the basement. And his dad has a gun that is the size of a handgun that shoots like a semi-automatic. And again, I was like, there are guns in the building that I'm in right now. There are guns here. And I was just very taken aback, and I realized that maybe the questions we had been asking weren't the only questions we should be asking. Where do we go for dinner? Maybe we should ask, why is gun violence such a prevalent part of our community? And why is it normal for someone to like to shoot an AR-15? What should I do about it as a Christian? And can we come to agreement about any of this? This is from one of our Milwaukee participants who wants to remain anonymous. Things changed for me because there was a lot of commotion about the people who died. You can't get someone off your mind. If you go on social media, Facebook, it's all down your timeline. It's the only thing you see. I'm sad, of course, but I want to make change because I'm tired of seeing people do things for the community and being killed for no reason. We have to do something to, stop these senseless deaths. And I think of the African American community as a big part of that. And people who just do good things are not acknowledged enough. And I think we need to do things to stop this senseless killing. This is the last one. This is from Claire. Claire heard about the Parkland shooting, and she was very disturbed. It's the first time a shooting really registered for her, and she wanted to be part of the solution, and after church, she grabbed a pencil and a piece of paper and started writing down words that became a poem. And this is the one we always finish with. This is a poem for peace. Her voice, it echoes, I can hear it. She is singing, chanting. Her words are dancing colors. They disrupt the mind, They envelop the heart. If she is singing a sonnet, I do not know it, but I can hear her swift melodies. Each note is dancing. Lithe tunes tangled in an endless enchanting rhythm. But I hear other things too. The shouts, the insults, fiery words grasp for her voice. They strangle her melodies. They are consuming her voice. Mockery and ridicule infect the tranquil sound. There's more in the distance, an endless pounding like a flash, there, then gone, then back again. The gunshots sound loud and unforgiving, ignorant and life-taking. I hear crying. Tears drown out the gunfire. A river of sorrow floods in, the deep mournings of mothers and the weeping cries of children. Their cries cannot stop. They repeat listlessly. Their cries will always remain insufferable to listen to, impossible to ignore. The hate and despair flourish, but listen. She is still singing. The gunshots, the crying, they will not drown her out. Her voice, it still resonates in a glorious tune, though weary, carrying the weight of injured spirits, it still rings out. Her mystical song ignites the soul and gives the spirit rest. She sings of the past. She sings of how we overcame it. She sings of justice and advocacy, and it sounds beautiful. Yes, it is beautiful. I can hear it. Can you? Can you hear her? Another voice joins the anthem, and I close my eyes and let the voices, united in perfect harmony, take me. More voices join, and soon I can hear a choir, a chorus of vivid songs together. It is even more beautiful than before. A few notes escape my lips, and I begin to join the voices. How many of us can sing together, I wonder? There are still shouts of hate in the silence, fearful wails between our voices, but the hate will flicker away like a blown-out candle when we all sing loud enough. We sing of righteousness, service, and world peace. We sing of love, and it is stronger than the hate. Our harmonies assist the love. They resist the fear. Our voices echo. I can hear us. We are singing, chanting. Yes, I can hear us. You do not need to know the words nor have a rich or perfect voice. Just sing. Sing with us, and many voices will become one, and many hearts will become united. O children, take these holy words and keep them in your heart. Amen.